I'm joined by Harry Litman of the Talking Feds Substack, Talking Feds YouTube channel. Harry Litman, the Supreme Court made a big ruling to deny a petition for a gag order in the Trump criminal case. Break it down for us. Any surprises here? Did you expect this? Tell us about it.
Well, you almost always expect, Ben, for them to deny. They do it in 90% plus. And you and I are, lawyers who let people know till we're blue in the face that all those reports out there that say Supreme Court affirm, Supreme Court decide, no, they're wrong. When you deny discretionary review, you do nothing but let it stand. But I thought this was, as you say, kind of significant, maybe not a surprise. In fact, one thing I think it says is the Supreme Court is there for Trump in certain big moments or things that I think really serve the political fortunes of the Republican Party, but not just for any old thing. And this is the gag order. And here's why I think it's pretty significant. Remember, Merchan imposes a gag order during trial. And Trump at the time says, oh, terrible imposition on my First Amendment rights. I want to be able to take this to the campaign and complain about Merchan. But it gets upheld all the way through. And then after the trial's over, he doesn't get rid of it. He reforms it because the case is still in front of him. And the point it makes that I think matters, and it's part of this broader agenda about Trump that we talked about in another discussion today about his trying to make the whole case go away. What it means now is that gag order is still there. In other words, Merchan still has his hooks in Trump. Trump still has impingements on his liberty because he's a prospective defendant. So he can't just go around, for instance, and challenge the integrity of the whole process or dump on things. There's still this important interest that New York State and the criminal justice system have that as long as he could be a defendant one day, Merchan can recognize and impose a gag order based on. And that's part and parcel of saying Trump may be out there trying to proclaim the election gives him a popular mandate to make everything go away. But down at the level of the law, there are ways that Merchan still has his number, and he may have to say, pretty please, can I travel? Or he is, at the same time as he's the president of the United States, he is also just a plain old convict. He's a criminal convict, and that means the gag order, that's the gag order authority, and that's other things as well. Now, he's trying to make this broad-based kind of attack on it to make it all go away. Maybe that succeeds, and the Supreme Court of the United States or others expands yet more the principle he's been able to get from them. But unless it does, this opinion and the Supreme Court saying we're not even taking cert here, and so this gag order appeal on your part, Trump, is at the end of the line. You're not going to be able to change it. To me, is part and parcel of a general principle that says he wants to make it go away, but the guy is a convict, and that means a court has abilities to do things to him that they do to convicts, and it's not as if you can pretend it's all gone. So that, I thought, was what, you have just this very bland order list that comes out, Trump versus, denied. But my eyes popped because it's this broader principle that I think it stands for. And unless he does something really significant and new in the New York case itself, it means he's not free and clear. He is, even as he's president of the United States, a convict subject to retrial, meaning subject to some oversight here and now in the courtroom of Justice Juan Merchan.
But Harry Litman, this is the Supreme Court that invented an entirely new doctrine that's never been taught in law school before, absolute immunity. This is the Supreme Court with Justice Roberts writing for the court in that absolute immunity decision, talking about the breaking down of norms like if a president reaches out to their attorney general and directs them to do things, of course they get absolute immunity. And when Justice Roberts wrote that, it just completely broke down all parts of the independence of the DOJ and the presidency, but said that that's entitled to absolute immunity. Harry, it's the same Supreme Court that said the 14th Amendment, Section 3 disqualification clause does not apply. It's the same Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade. It's the same Supreme Court that overturned the Lemon test about separation of church and state. You get the point. This is the Supreme
I do.
Court.
It really is that court who's done one solid after another for Donald Trump. But here's one time where they didn't do the solid. We'll see, as I said, do they reach out to try to change the whole calculus on the New York case, which, as you've mentioned, besides being over, concerns pre-election behavior when he's doesn't have official duties. He's just a candidate, and they made clear even in the immunity opinion that doesn't count. I am not by any means taking off the table the prospect that they yet again parachute in from on high and change the calculus. But unless and until they do, in that separate case that he is bringing about immunity before Mayor Chun, I'm making the point that the normal workaday and not very happy relationship that a criminal convict has with the court that convicted him and that could yet retry him, that stands. And that gives certain power to Mayor Chun and restricts certain liberties for Trump. And right now, he wants it to be otherwise. But unless and until that court that you've well summarized some of the big ticket items of, until it wades in here in this direction as well, the guy's a convict. He's also a president, but he's a convict. And that means he can be restricted in certain ways unless and until the court says otherwise. And all I'm saying is, in part because of his exhortations, we've gotten in the mindset of the election has totally wiped the slate clean and made everything go away, and it ain't so.
You know, Harry, we're recording this video early December, closer to mid-December 2024. Yeah. You know, as we're talking about the Supreme Court, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what just popped into my mind, which was right around this time, maybe a few days after where we're recording this now, last year. That's when Special Counsel Jack Smith moved to expedite the absolute immunity argument and have the Supreme Court rule on it right away. I think Jack Smith recognized he didn't want the Supreme Court to run out the clock. He did that extraordinary thing of saying, you need to intervene now.
That's
and
right.
Then the Supreme Court shortly thereafter rejected Jack Smith's request and then allowed a normal certiorari petition to be filed by Donald Trump, waited to the very last moment to grant cert on the absolute immunity argument, then set the hearing on the very last possible date of the term, and then ruled on the very last.
No, in between, one more thing. At the hearing said, there's no rush here. We are ruling for the ages, even though this has happened only once. We're going to take our time. Sorry, I just wanted to add one more to your very good list. Go ahead.
You know, and so for everybody who is thinking, you know, did Special Counsel Jack Smith do everything he could? Look, the bottom line is that the Supreme Court literally changed the way the Constitution's been interpreted. I mean, Harry, you've taught as a professor in law school for quite some time. I'm a professor at a law school. We teach this stuff when we went to law school, when you went to law school, slightly earlier than when I went to law school. But when we went to law school, this was not the law. And the Supreme Court changed the textbooks last year or this year and said this is not the way it is. But for that, we would be in a different situation. Trump probably would have been convicted of more felonies. And I just think as we
maybe we will be in a few generations, including
reflecting on that, Harry. But I'll give you the last word on this video, Harry.
Yeah, well, since you moved it into that on that level, you know, let's take the abortion case. I find it so hard to believe that 50 years from now we'll be the only modern democracy that doesn't recognize some essential constitutional, they have different constitutional systems, but constitutional rights say to terminate pregnancy. But part of the surprise and distress of the election is to really bring home it ain't happening soon. It's likely Trump gets 1 or 2 or 3 appointments, maybe of people who already are voting with the extreme conservative majority, but that revives that vote for another generation. And then there's a chance that Sotomayor has to step down or is not healthy. So I think we are at a sort of aberrant time in U.S. constitutional history where we have a court that is out of step with society, out of step with the legal academy, and is really going to not be remembered historically, but historically now is really starting to look longer and longer and longer. You're very good about reminding me how I'm older than you. I think I, and now maybe you, will for the rest of our days have this crazy Supreme Court. And that's something you always have to calculate. You look at the pieces on the board, right? And what the things that he's doing, and you might have said in days gone by, okay, but the court won't let that happen. And you can't say that anymore. And so that calculation has changed. I believe it won't be a permanent state of affairs, but man, oh man, in the long run, as I think someone said, we're all dead. There's a long run here where that court is going to be rogue for a very, very long time. And that just affects the political calculus and of course the legal one for many moons to come, I'm really sorry to say.
Well, at least we have you on your new Substack, Harry Litman. Very
that makes it all okay.
From the LA Times. You're going to be writing about this on your Substack. So everyone's got Substack. Subscribe to Harry Litman Substack. Yeah. I learn things from your Substack and your YouTube channel. It's the Talking Feds Substack, the Talking Feds YouTube channel, and guess what? The Talking Feds podcast. Harry, thank you so much.
Hey, Ben, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram at MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.